Tradesmen built America. Not policymakers or desk jockeys, but hardworking, blue-collared men and women. Join me, Roger Wakefield, on conversations with some of the nation's most successful skilled laborers. This is the Trade Talks. Did you have any idea working with your dad that would lead you to the profession that you're in?
No, never. I like to say, I always make a joke. I say I was born on a shelf in a hardware store because my dad, he was an electrician 40 years. And I remember sitting in the shop with him after school and being at the department stores for hours and hours and hours. And it was, as a kid, it was boring. It was boring to me. So I never really wanted to do it, but just admiring my dad. I think my dad's the greatest man ever walked the planet. And when you have someone like that, you naturally step into it. So as an adult, straight out of high school, when I joined the military, I went into mechanical work. And that's when I really fell in love with it and started to say, like, hey, this is why Dad did it every day.
I like that.
Yeah. And to have a dad that comes home every day, he came home at 4:15 every day like clockwork, dirty, sweaty, working super hard, and then still having time to play with us. As an adult, it gave me the honor for the trade because you can see someone that can work so hard but still have time for the family. That's really how I started to fall in love with it, right?
So, an electrician.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of electrician was he? Was it commercial, residential, service? What all did he do?
He worked at the Veterans Hospital.
Okay.
So it was commercial, industrial almost,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I grew up in Los Angeles. I live in North Carolina. Now the military brought me to North Carolina. I grew roots down, met a girl, married her, had kids there. Yeah, so I'm North Carolina boy at this point, but grew up in Los Angeles. He worked at the Veterans Hospital. It's the biggest VA in the country. And what he did was he ran that entire hospital with 6 electricians, right? And so this is why I say this, he's a superhero. In 1994, we actually had the Northridge earthquake, 6.6 earthquake in Los Angeles. To have an earthquake that big in LA is a big deal.
You bet.
And the hospital never went down. It never shut down because of these 6 electricians that worked night and day, keeping that generator running. And I remember that. And those were the days when I noticed, like, these guys are special. The trades are special. And that undid my teenage mind of, I don't want to go into the trades. Because, in the 90s and in the 80s, they were teaching, if you don't
go to college,
you're going to be a construction worker.
You're never going to amount to anything.
Yes, yeah. And so no one wanted to be a construction worker. But then when you see that, you say, wait a minute, the hospital never shut down because of these people, the kind of guys that have a hard hat and a vest everywhere they go. They say, here's a hard hat. Those kind of guys, they make a difference. And it shifted my mind. And that's when I started turning and saying, hey, what do I want to do after I get out of the military?
So what branch of the military did you go to?
Air Force.
Cool. I've got a nephew that's a fighter pilot in the Air Force right now. Actually, he's training fighter pilots now. He's already done 2 or 3 stints. So he's training now. And they want him to re-up, and he's like, I'll re-up if I can fly.
Wow.
Not teach.
Wow.
So he wants back in the seat.
Wow.
But yeah, and he's a great kid. So it's kind of neat. When you got into the military, you get into mechanical work.
Mm-hmm.
What did you learn? Was it plumbing, electrical, HVAC, all of it? How'd you start out?
So I went into the job. It was a mechanical job, right? And so the military is kind of different because sometimes they pigeonhole you into one thing, but a lot of times you have to
fix it all.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so my job, I worked on the flight line where the airplanes were, and we worked on any equipment that the airplane mechanics use to fix their airplanes.
Okay.
So we had 300 different types of equipment. We had heating and air conditioning. We had machines that pull oxygen out of the air and turn it into nitrogen. It's a lot of weird stuff. So,
you bet.
So we worked on all of that. But when I started transitioning out, so I did 6 years. I went in during peacetime. And so I was in 98. And then we all know what happened in 9/11, right? I went in peacetime, and then it became wartime, right? So in the middle of it, we invaded Iraq, we invaded Afghanistan, all that. And right around that time, my wife got pregnant, and that's when I started shifting and saying, okay, I love my service, but I don't know if I want to miss out on this, right? So I got out of the military, and I took these 300 different types of equipment and had to narrow them down to what can I do to provide for my family? Because you can't get out and then work on a machine that puts bombs on airplanes. Where are you going to work? Right.
They don't have a lot of those.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it boiled down to HVAC or generator work, right? And the generator work was more on the electrician side, and the HVAC obviously was HVAC. So I pretty much rolled the dice and sat down with my wife and said, here are these options. And I ended up going into HVAC, and that's kind of where that started.
You know, and I love that, but it's funny. I was literally at Ahern. I was at Extreme and Snorkel company in Vegas that manufactures forklifts, man lifts, all kinds of things. And one of the tools there is a nitrogen generator.
Wow.
And they use it for plasma cutting.
Wow.
Or like plasma cutting. They use it and electricity to cut metal up to 1.25 inches thick.
Wow.
So, you know, just because you think, wait, there's not generators everywhere and all that. There's nitrogen generators.
So they're out there. Wow.
And there are. But that's neat because you mentioned that. Because literally I saw one, it was 2 days ago from Vegas yesterday.
You're the first person I've ever met that has heard of that machine.
Oh, not just heard of it, seen it, talked about it. But nitrogen's 89% or 90% of the air.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's 80%.
Yeah.
19% oxygen, 80% nitrogen, 1%.
Yeah. And they're weird. They're weird machines.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you're working on them. They're very strange. They're very finicky. And they have a byproduct that comes out after the machine. It's real weird or purplish stuff. But it's so interesting, the machines that are out there. Yeah.
So you picked HVAC. Was there anything particular about it, or just, hey, I'll be able to do a lot more HVAC work than generator work around the country?
That's exactly what it was. So in the town that I'm in Fayetteville, Fort Liberty. Some people know it as Fort Bragg. It's the biggest military base in the United States.
Right.
So HVAC, it was, okay, every home has an HVAC system. Every building has an HVAC system. Not all homes and not all buildings have generators, right? So for me, it was about providing.
You bet. It's a numbers game.
Yeah. I mean, I watched my dad provide every day. And it wasn't about what I wanted. It was about my pregnant wife, my soon-to-be-born son, who's now 19 years old, right? I have 3 boys. But it was about what will bring in more money and what will bring in more stability. And I looked at all the homes and said, they all have an HVAC system. So I just went out and did it, right?
Well, you know, they all have plumbing too.
They do.
I just didn't know if you knew that.
I didn't have the experience. Yeah, I didn't have the experience.
There you go.
Yeah, yeah.
Very interesting. So you got out of the military, started in HVAC, working with another company, I guess.
I did, yeah. So I worked with the company for 7 months. Now, I'd been doing HVAC for 6 years already, right? So, but I didn't have a license.
Right. So, no, I get that.
Yeah, yeah. So I worked with a company for 7 months, and there was a lot of struggle even there because I had my military pay, and you're coming out, and you're pretty much
starting at the very bottom.
Yeah, yeah. And I was getting paid $8 an hour, which is okay, but where I was at and where my lifestyle was at, $8 wouldn't support it. So I contacted the licensing board. And I said, hey, I'm coming out of the military. Can I test for a license? And that wasn't a common question that they had because they just have the traditional, you work for 4 years. And
absolutely.
Yeah. And so they declined me. And I worked for a little while longer. And I called them back because I believe in, I'm just going to ask. It doesn't hurt to keep asking.
Hey, if you don't ask, you don't ever get told yes.
Right. Yeah. So they told me no. I waited a little while. I called back. They told me no. I waited a little while. I called back. Somebody gave me a yes.
I love that.
Yeah. So
how long did it take you
to pass the test?
No, to get approved to take the test.
Wow. 2 years.
Okay.
2 years of just saying I'm going to wait and then I'm going to call. And I have in Michael Johnson's book, it's an invisible book. I have rules, right? My first page, if you open my book, my first page says, everything that I have is only by the grace of God. That's rule 1 for me that I live by because my dad told me you have to have standards.
Absolutely.
My second rule, if you turn the page, is I don't take no for an answer, right? And what I mean by that is If I ask Roger and you say no, then I'll ask someone will give me a yes.
You bet.
Right? Because if you tell me no, I'm in the same position that I was in before.
You know, I love that because I met a very great salesperson one time. And we were talking, one thing he says is, don't accept no from someone who can tell you yes.
Amazing.
And I'm like, man, I like that.
Yeah. And I've taught my kids that, you know, just, hey, don't accept no for an answer. There are times when you're raising boys that you have to teach them a no is a no.
A no means no. Yeah,
yes.
no means no.
Right. So
in certain times.
Yes. So I have to be careful with that as a father.
I love that.
So, but I tell them, hey, no means this situation where no is no, and learn that. But when we're talking about in the professional world, when you're advancing your career, that's when you say, I don't take no for an answer, because I'm going to ask you, and then I'm going to call you back a month later. I'm going to ask you, and then I'm going to call you. And eventually you're going to say, okay, Mike, right? And it's okay to ask until someone just absolutely says, do not call me. That's different.
No, I completely agree. And I love that. Take just a minute and tell everybody who you are and what you do.
So I've been running my HVAC company for 20 years.
And your name is?
Michael. I'm Michael James Johnson.
There you
I'm
go.
in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Okay.
I have 3 boys. Been married 20 years to the most wonderful, supportive woman ever, right? So I live there in Fayetteville. I run a company, an HVAC company, for 20 years. First 10 years, honestly, it was horrible. It was wonderful to meet people, to be in homes fixing things. It was bad because I didn't know how to be a business owner, right? So I started out starting the company with a vision to give my wife something that we didn't have, which was financial stability. And it was giving her something she never wanted, which was no financial stability, and I'm not home.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
Because I didn't know. So I remember, and this is part of my story of who I am. I remember after 10 years in, and it's embarrassing to say that, you know, but at 10 years in, I pulled on the side of the road in my van as a grown man, and I cried and I prayed and I said, Lord, I've been doing this and I'm tired of trying to do it on my own. I'm going to trust you and I'm going to seek out help. So I hired a business coach.
Good for you.
I hired a business coach. I couldn't even afford it. Or I thought I could.
I couldn't afford my first one.
Right.
No, I know.
Yeah. So the guy told me how much it was, and I just said yes because, I mean, my 10 years of thinking put me where I was at. So why am I going to go another 10 years? So I did it, and it turned my life around. It turned the business around. It helped me to realize, like, hey, I wasn't born with the business.
You bet.
I wasn't born knowing how to price things, how to structure things. And it turned everything around so much to the point to where I'm still running my business. So this is 10 years later, right? So it's the second 10 years. The business is profitable. It runs without me. I'm here in Dallas. My business is running because I have a wonderful team. I mean, there's people that hired ours is incredible.
I love that.
Yeah.
Love
so I'm still running the business. I get my paycheck from the business. I'm stable. But seeing that transformation in me and what it did to my family, to my boys, what it gives them,
right,
actually is what brought me into the business coaching world.
Okay.
Because that transformation, it's so needed.
No, I completely agree. But let's go back. You go to work for an HVAC company. You finally get your license. So now you're at least making decent money. I
was doing a lot of jobs. I wasn't a good business partner.
I get it. I get it. But and again, you're working for somebody else. So you're an hourly employee, I'm assuming.
Yep.
And the more hours you make, more money you make. Not a great way to make a good living.
Right.
But it does. It gets us the education we need to where we can decide to step out and do things.
Right.
But while you're an HVAC technician, even while you're, I guess you're called an apprentice, but before you get it at that time,
right,
the 2 years you were trying to get your license, what made you want to be good at what you did?
That boils down to Willie Earl Johnson, my dad, who I talked about, who was an electrician for 40 years. He was always excellent at what he did. He still is. That's why when you were showing me around all the things that you do with Leak Pro and all of that, and I said, you remind me of my dad, because Willie Johnson taught us. I remember from the time I was little, this is why I say he's the greatest man. From the time I was little, he said, you have to be 2 times better than everyone else if you want to succeed.
You bet.
Right? And so I live with that I cannot serve well, giving a half a job, my customers, and I don't represent myself well and my family well, because I live in the same community that my business is in. So when I'm in Walmart and a customer comes up to me, I want that customer to come up to me while I'm with my wife and kids and say, hey, thanks for doing this. I don't want them to, and I have to dodge, hey, babe, come, hey, and that all starts with doing a good job.
It's funny. I've been in the union. I've been open shop. I've done everything. One of the very first plumbers I worked with is still to this day one of the best. And I remember asking him one day, I said, Austin, what made you want to be a great plumber? What made you always want to do everything right? Because when he taught me, it's like, look, turn the letters up, do this, do this, do this. And then afterwards, he'd let you put something in wrong. And then he'd come back and look at it and say, what's wrong with this? It's like, well, I missed that. So take it apart and fix it. It's like, wait, you know how much that's going to cost? He's like, yeah, but we're doing it right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow. So I learned a lot, but I asked him one day, what makes you always want to do things right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he said basically the same thing as you. He said, I don't ever want to be out with my family and have somebody walk up and say, look, you ripped us off.
Right.
You installed something that didn't work. You charged us too much money. Whatever the case is, he says, I always wanted to do the right thing. Yeah. And so I do. I love that. I think that's the most amazing mindset to have is look, I don't ever want anybody to be able to look at what I did and say, you didn't do that right. Yeah. Yeah. It's a big deal.
You have to have standards for yourself. And that's why they say there's a fantastic book. In the book, there's a quote that says,
"No, wait, which book?"
Okay.
If you're going to quote a book, I want to know
I didn't know
book.
if
oh, absolutely.
John Maxwell.
Okay.
Right. Leadership Gold.
Okay. Love John Maxwell.
No. I'm sorry. The book, John Maxwell book, Talent is Never Enough.
Okay.
All right. That's the title. That is the quote. The title is the quote that I never forget. So it teaches talent's never enough.
You bet.
You can be a fantastic plumber, an amazing plumber. That's your skill. That's your talent. But if you don't have responsibility, truth, honor, the talent can't stand on its own, right? It's your character that makes you say, man, I'm an amazing plumber, but this time I didn't tighten it as much. And it's 10 degrees outside. I'm freezing. I'm tired. I'm hungry.
Right.
Your responsibility and your character will say, I don't care. I'm going to do it right because they paid me money.
You bet.
Your talent won't make that decision. So talent is not enough as character. And that's why we have to, in the trade schools, we have Fayetteville Technical Community College, right? It's about 10 minutes from my house. I graduated there 20 years ago. I go there twice a year. I'm not a teacher. I come in twice a year and talk to the HVAC students. And I don't talk about the trade as far as, this is how you do this. I talk about this.
No, I go to, there's high schools and colleges that invite me often. They're like, hey, will you come by and talk to our kids? It's like, absolutely. And I don't talk plumbing. Yeah. It's like, you know what, y'all have got an instructor here for that. Yeah. But, and me, I started my own app, and that's what it's all about. I want to teach you to be a better person. I don't want to teach you plumbing. There's a million people out there that'll teach you plumbing. I don't want to teach you HVAC. I don't want to teach you roofing, carpentry. I don't want to teach you anything like that. Yeah. I want to teach you why you always do things right. Yeah. I want to teach you things like that.
It'll last longer.
Oh, yeah.
It'll take you further, you know.
This video is sponsored by High Level. For your 30-day free trial, go to gohighlevel.com/Roger Wakefield. You become a good technician. I'm assuming you move up, start kind of overseeing other technicians or working with them and things like that.
Yeah. I moved to another company, right? Because I was a different person. They didn't recognize the change. So I moved to a different company. And then I started,
Hold on, I'll say something.
Yeah.
You can sometimes outgrow the companies you're at, can't you?
Yes.
And it's not just outgrowing the company, it's outgrowing the education you're getting at that company.
Big time.
I tell people all the time, look, when you're at a place that you stop learning, it's time to move.
Yeah.
It's time to get up and go.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say this. There's companies that we need to leave. There's people in our lives we need to leave.
Yes.
And I mean, it may be your best friends.
Yeah.
It may be the person you're dating. It may be the person you're married to.
Yeah.
There's times in our lives it's like, look, I'm in a bad spot. I'm not growing.
Yeah.
So yeah. Go ahead. I like the way you worded that.
Yeah, 100%. So I moved to a different company and I started doing service calls, right? So for me, I've always been logical, and I try to look ahead, 6 months ahead of where I'm at, right? Because you're headed to the future, so you better look
You
at
bet.
if you don't wait for
Absolutely.
it to come. So I started doing service calls. I did 1 or 2. And then I went back to the same exact conversation that I had with my wife when I was leaving the military. This is how much I can make if I do this.
Right.
This is how much I can make if I stay here. Because sometimes life is as easy as get a piece of paper and put the pros of
Pros
this
and cons, good and bad. Yep.
That will be 100 years from now.
I remember one time, and my father passed a few years back, and I remember going over to see him one afternoon, and my dad worked for basically AT&T for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going to see him one day, and I had left one company and gone to another company. And, you know, when your father works at the same place for 40 years, it's like, you're leaving a company again?
Yeah.
You're going somewhere else?
Yeah.
And he looked at me one day, and it was this particular day, and he looks at me, he says, you know, son, he said, isn't it time that you settle down, find a company to stick with, and stay there and grow? I said, Dad, it probably is. I said, but look, I don't leave companies. And he looked at me funny. He says, what do you mean you don't leave? You just left one to go to work for another one. I said, yeah, Dad, but I don't leave companies. Other companies pay me to come to them.
Wow.
I said, I'm good at what I do here.
Yeah.
And I've amassed a skill set.
Yeah.
And I remember this particular company that I had left, I'd ended up going back to again. There were literally like 2 companies I went back and forth to because a job had come along, a project had come along. They're like, look, we need you, or you've been requested, or whatever it is. And when I went back so to finish my story there, I said, Dad, look, I don't leave. Companies pay me to leave. And he looked at me and says, I don't know what you mean. I said, well, Dad, I just left this company for this company. It's a $6 an hour raise. I said, that's $12,000 a year. And he looked at like, $12,000?
Yeah.
I said, yeah, they offer me this much more to come around. I said, plus now I get bonuses. Plus now I get this. He's like, you know, I think you're doing okay.
Yeah.
Keep doing what you're doing. But I went back to that other company later. And when I went back, I was sitting there talking to him one day, talking to the vice president who brought me in. He said, you know, you're one of 5 people in this company that can run $20 million a year jobs. He said, we're very picky about the jobs we bid because of who we can put on it to run it.
Yeah.
He said, but you're one of those people. And that's why at the time he was trying to get me back.
Yeah.
And I came back, but they paid me good money to come back there too. So yeah, if you develop a good skill set, a good reputation, more than just talent, more than just your skill, you can get some great opportunities.
Yes, absolutely. It always goes back to character and excellence, right? And that's why companies should have core values, right? Every company should have in my company, I have core values. We have honor. We have the hero promise, right? The HVAC company. We honor our customers. We honor their time. We honor their property. Excellence, right? So it's a HERO, excellence. We believe in excellence in all we do. Reliability. If we say we're going to be there, we're going to be there, right? And then outreach, which is giving back to the community. Those core values come from me, from my heart, to give to my team so that everyone knows, and I have a good team, you know, they're great people, but you have to set that out because success in business and success in a company comes from the character aspects. Everything else we can teach. I can send plumbers to the League Pro training. I can do that. Right. But the character side also has to be pushed. I love it.
So you move up and you start overseeing other people.
Very short time. There was an incredibly short.
That's okay. How do you motivate people? How do you manage people?
I think you...
Back then.
Yeah.
Because it's different now.
Yeah. So, and that goes back even to a lot of the time in the military, right? Well, military leadership is different because it's almost like you follow me because
break you completely down first, then build you back up to you follow me.
You follow me because you have to.
You bet.
Right? So then when you're not in the military, you're not in government, it's more of people follow you because of who you are and what you represent. So for me to lead people is to find out your why. What is Roger's why? If he works for me, what does he want out of life? Because there's a fantastic business coach I've coached with for years. His name is Sam Gamble. And he says, transformation is not, if I'm your boss, then you work for me and I get all of my goals. Right. transformation is if I can achieve my goals as the employer while helping you achieve your goals as an employee. That's how you lead people.
Mm-hmm.
So I find out your why. What motivates Roger? What does he want? He wants more time with his wife. He wants more time with his kids. Okay, how can I help him achieve that? Okay, what about Lisa? What does she want? She wants more hours. She wants more money because she wants to buy a house. How can I help her achieve that? How can I help my employees achieve what they want while they help me achieve what I want?
Right.
And that's how you get transformational leadership. The opposite of that is you do what I say and you fix these machines and you get revenue.
Right.
That's how you lose people.
And then they leave. Yeah.
Yeah. Then
Are you familiar with Tommy Mello?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tommy's great about that.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah. And he was on the show a couple months ago.
Absolutely. No, I love Tommy. He's a great guy. So you decide to get out and open your own company.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, how scary is that?
It wasn't scary enough for me because I was young. I was 24 years old. What do they say? Young and dumb? Or
yeah.
Do you remember what it's like to
part of it?
Yeah. Yeah. To be so young and you're invisible and I'm so smart and I can do this and
bulletproof and invisible.
Yeah. Yeah.
You lose that at a certain age.
And it was scary, but I was too confident. If I were to do it now, I would have the right amount of fear. So I just jumped in, and this is what I tell clients, or people, when people find out you do business coaching, everyone wants to come and have a conversation with you. And when people launch out, I tell them, hey, don't do it the way I did. I jumped into the ocean not knowing how to swim without a life vest.
Right.
That's not smart, right? So I wasn't scared. I got scared a year in when I burned through all of the savings and I couldn't pay the more. That's when.
See, I didn't even have a savings when I started mine. It was just like I woke up one Friday, and decided, here we go.
And same. I mean, I had maybe a couple $100 and that burned. I mean, the story, my story is after about a year in business, two years in business, we were scraping money from the couch cushions. And for years, I didn't tell these stories because you're supposed to be a business owner.
You're a business owner. You got everything going your way.
It was horrible.
I've been there.
My wife and I, we would search the couch cushions together. I still get emotional about it, right? Because you think about how much someone can support you.
Oh, yeah.
So we would search the couch cushions for enough change to get groceries to feed ourselves. I would go places and do jobs, and people would say, because you have these wonderful, hey, you want a slice of pizza or whatever? And, you're supposed to turn it down. Right. And I would say, oh, sure. And I would take this slice of pizza and bring it home to feed my wife. I was a business owner, right? Yep. So that fear came later.
So what were you doing wrong business-wise? Everything?
Yeah.
Because I felt like I was doing everything wrong.
This is what it boils down to, because there's so many things when you talk about pricing, this, that, this. Okay. All of that boiled down to one major thing. It was mindset problems, right? Poverty mindset.
Oh, yeah.
People-pleasing problems.
We're just tradespeople. We didn't go to college.
Yeah. And then
I'm never going to amount to anything.
Yes. And I say, hey, well, I just want to help this guy, just helping and you are there to help, but you're also there to provide.
You bet.
Right.
For you, your family, your employees.
Yeah. So it's not only transactional, but there has to be a transaction. I'm going to come fix your plumbing or fix your HVAC, and you're going to provide. In exchange, you're going to pay me the price that I deserve. So I had a lot of head trash. And the trash was in my head, not in the trash where it belonged. So I did get that out. The number one thing was my pricing, right?
You were way undercharging.
Because everyone starts out the same unless you've had some kind of coach or you work. Some people are blessed to work at a well-running company and then they kind of take that. But I was pricing based off of my competition. That's a mistake.
And they're probably going broke.
They're going out of business.
Yeah.
Over the last couple of years, I've coached businesses anywhere from $200K a year revenue up to $10 million revenue. And I see their numbers and I coach them.
But let's talk about you.
Yeah. I was just saying there's companies going out of business.
Every day.
Yeah.
What was the first thing that you learned that started helping your business improve?
The first thing was understanding that my pricing should be based off of my cost. That was a mindset shift. Because I'm thinking, well, if I priced it, this is fear-based, right? So I had to let go of the fear that if I start charging, I won't lose every single customer. That's a lie. That's not true.
Right.
So I had to let go of that and just say, If I'm spending $300, I cannot charge $301 or $310. So that was the first thing that changed. The second thing that changed was me saying, this is a person that we talk about seeking out coaching, right? So my first business coach, his name is Paul Grizzle, right? I always honor him for what he did and what he taught me, was to be able to look at someone else and say, this guy has achieved this level of success. Everything he's telling me, I don't believe it. I'm scared to do it. I think he's crazy. But despite what I think and what I feel, I'm going to do it. And it's hard to do when everything that you're telling me goes against my culture and how I was raised and what I think I'm supposed to do. And to just do it, that mindset changed me. But when you hit rock bottom, you will change, right? So those were
I completely agree.
Yeah.
How much were you undercharging back then?
So I was charging, let's say for a service call, right? And then we'll figure out the numbers. So I was charging about $45 for a service call, right? And
is it show up fee or is it like $45 an hour? Okay.
$45.
You at least had a show up fee. That's better than a lot of people.
Yeah, I had something. But I would say almost every service call that I did, I probably was losing money. I raised my prices 6 times in a period of 3 weeks working with my business coach.
I love that because, you know, what you said, have you ever been in a best practice group?
Yes.
Okay. So I remember signing up for a best practice group. Number one, didn't have the money, signed up for it. And I go to their first week training, which they bring all the new people signing up in to tell you what it's all about, what you need to know, and what you need to be doing. And I remember walking in and saying, look, just teach me to make my phone ring. That's what I need. Yes. Marketing. Make my phone ring. Yeah. And now I teach people to do that every day. It's like, look, that part's easy. Yeah. But one of the coaches looked at me and says, are you making money on every job you do? Yeah. I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. He's like, wait, you don't even know if you're making money on every job. I said, no. Right. He said, so what if you're losing money? Is that possible? It's possible. He said, so what happens if we make your phone ring more? You'll lose more money. Faster. That's amazing. And I was literally just like, I mean, that was like getting kicked in the balls. That's amazing. It's like, ooh. Wow. And that was the first day of the week. By the end of the week, I was like, okay, I'm doing a lot of stuff wrong. It changes you. This video is sponsored by High Level. We've partnered up with High Level because we believe this is the best all-in-one sales and marketing platform to help you grow your business. For your 30-day free trial, go to gohighlevel.com/Roger Wakefield. You're running a business. Yes. You're losing money. You hire a coach. Love that. I've still got multiple coaches to this day. Yep. Wow. I spend more money today on coaches. Matter of fact, almost one in particular. I've got 2 coaches that I pay probably what I made annually 5 years ago. Wow. And it's like, but my life has completely changed. Yes. So I believe in coaching. I think it's amazing. Yep. But most people listening here want to find out, wait, how did you get in the trades? How did you grow in the trades? How did you do good? How did you start your own business? What was it? What all didn't you know about starting a business? And I'm talking before you had a coach, before anything. You started your business. You weren't scared. Right. Within 2 months, you realized I don't know everything. Right. What were those realizations? Probably the phone ringing. Okay, so that's number one. I was getting a lot of referrals because I had been in the community for a long time, but I didn't know how to make money because my business account, well, I had a business account, right? But it was commingling funds. So I didn't know how to separate funds. So that's one. I get it. Right. So the bank account was going down every month in year over year. I started borrowing money. So then I started learning like, hey, what is going on? But I didn't know it was the pricing. I figured, hey, I just need more jobs. Because you got some customers saying, man, that's expensive. Yes. And you got some customers saying, we can't afford you. Yeah. So it's like, man, my pricing must be right about where it needs to be. And I had a customer tell me, and it's when the light bulb hit, I quoted a job, and this customer said, man, that's how much you're going to quote me? I said, well, yes, sir, that's how much it costs to do the job. And he said, if I'm going to pay you that, I might as well pay one of the real companies. When he said that, that's when I realized
I'm not getting the pricing because I'm not seen as a real company.
No, I love that because I remember, and I got into social media because I got tired of getting ripped off by marketing companies. Tired of it.
Yeah.
And I remember calling, it was actually a friend who previously owned a plumbing, electrical, HVAC swimming pool company. And I called him one day. I said, look, I need help with my marketing. And he's the one who told me about best practice groups. But I called him and he looks at my website and he says, who's your competition? I said, you know my competition. Come on, you're here. So he says, you look like the smallest company in town compared to. And I'm like, well, you're comparing me to the biggest companies in town.
Yeah.
He says, so why don't you look like them?
Yeah.
I said, because I'm not. He said, but your website can look that way.
Yeah.
He said, you look like you're chucking a truck.
Yeah.
I said, well, basically I am. I got, one or two plumbers.
Yeah.
And to hear that from him, I was just like, that was a complete mindset shift. Yeah. And the neat thing about it is I said, okay, look, he was a marketing guy who ended up getting into all this. So he helped rebuild my website and everything. And I mean, things changed immediately.
Wow.
I joined the best practice group. Things changed immediately.
Right.
But still, even after being in the best practice group for about a year, I walk into one of the bigger companies in town, ask the owner, look, can I come by and talk to you? He said, absolutely. He says, bring your price book. I said, okay. Walk in. He opens it up. He worked out of the same type price book. He was in the same best practice group. Opened up the price book, closed it, and slid it back. He said, you're way undercharging. And I'm like, now, how can you know that? You don't even know my numbers. He said, right. I know our numbers in Dallas.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
At the time, he's probably one of the most expensive companies in town. He probably still is.
Yeah.
But he's also one of the biggest and gets the most work and makes the phone ring the most.
It's such a paradigm shift when you realize that. When you bid against someone and you lose and they're 2 times higher than you, you start to realize it's not about the pricing.
It's about the value.
Yes. Yes. People buy, they don't want a new HVAC system or new plumbing system. They want safety.
Yeah.
They want to feel safe. They want to feel like, are you going to come back and fix it if you make a mistake? And
are you going to be in business to come back and fix it a year from now?
And of course, everyone is saying that. Everyone has the same values that they pitch. Oh, where we do this, we do. They're all saying the same thing. So the difference maker is the nonverbal perception. Oh, he's got that nice white shirt with the logo. He's got this. So you never know how someone perceives you, right? You don't know how people perceive you when they don't know you. I don't know how you perceive me when you met me. So I have to put my best foot forward.
Absolutely. We all do.
Right. And that's what it was about. And when that guy said, I'll pay one of the real companies, that's what changed for me. Like, wait a minute. I need to find out how I'm perceived. That van that someone gave me, that was a blessing when they gave me. Maybe that's not where I am today.
Right.
It started me, but that's not where I'm going to finish. And started making those shifts and realizing that people are buying off the value. And I need to sell the value because I was the best.
Right.
But they don't see me as the best. Right.
And it's funny, and I felt the same way. It's like I had seen some of these other companies, not necessarily his, but the same size almost. Heard the stories about, man, they're coming in and you need a flapper changed on the toilet and they're installing 3 new water heaters. And it's like, man, how can people do that? It's just, they're ripping people off. Well, then you get in these best practice groups and you understand, like, if you're there to fix that toilet, you need to look at the water heater. You're the professional. Right. You're in the house.
Yeah.
And I know you've got me here to fix this, but we do a 360-degree inspection. We're going to inspect everything. And it's really played true one day. I went to a lady's house who owns a roofing company, and she was wanting to move her laundry room out into the garage because her closet backed up to the laundry room. She wanted a bigger closet. So I get over here, I put it all together, give her a price, figure out where everything is, do the 360 inspection, say, oh, by the way, you got 2 water heaters in your house that are 14 years old. They're in your attic above your ceiling, and they're 6-year water heaters. I would look at replacing them first. She's like, no. I want the closet. Not worried about the water heaters. I want the closet.
Yeah.
That was a Thursday or Friday. I think it was Thursday. I went out there. Friday, I sent the estimate. and sent her the estimate for the water heater too. She calls me Monday and she said, I should have listened to you. I said, what happened? She says, I went out of town. She said, left on Friday. I said, and the water heater ruptured. She said, yeah. I said, if you leave at 5 o'clock, it ruptures at 5:01.
Yeah.
And she lived on a golf course, had a swimming pool. All the water ran out the back.
Wow.
Neighbors didn't even see water running down the driveway. So nobody thought to come say, hey, turn the water off.
Wow. That was
Looks like the pool's overflowing. Okay. No big deal. Literally, when she got back home, her living room floor, which was a 2-story ceiling in that area, was in her living room.
Yeah.
The kitchen floor was all in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Because water doesn't just go straight down. It spreads out and goes everywhere.
Yeah.
And it did just a ton of damage. And that's when it clicked on me. I'm the professional.
Yeah.
When I walk in, and I had it put great one time. This guy tells a story about a doctor. He says, doctor's walking down the hallway at a hospital, doing his calls, doing his rounds. And he looks up and he sees one of his patients' names on the door. And he walks in. He says, the guy's laying here. He's got his arm up in a sling and laying here in bed. And he walks in. He says, man, what's going on? He said, doc, I had a heart attack and died. He says, what do you mean? He says, well, after I left your office, I had a heart attack. They came and picked me up in the ambulance because I had a wreck. Came and picked me up in the ambulance, took me to the hospital. I died twice. They brought me back to life both times. And doc says, yeah. He says, you know what? When you came in the doctor's office the other day, your blood pressure was so high, we didn't think you'd live. He says, well, doc, why didn't you tell me that? He says, because we were just there. You were there for me to put a cast on.
It's an amazing analogy.
And I mean, you think about that. I get frustrated when I go to the dentist because I've got high blood pressure. Every time I go in, they're like, dude, your blood pressure is going to kill you. I'm like, look, just clean my teeth. Come on. And when I heard that story, it's like,
yeah. Amazing.
But, we are the trained professionals that walk in people's houses.
Yeah.
If we're not giving people options.
Yes.
Hey, you want an AC system? Have you thought about a geothermal system? It can save you 70% on your utilities. Have you thought about that or no? No, I hadn't. Look, they're a lot more expensive, but your ROI on it is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
If we learn to have those conversations with people, they're like, hey, you know what? I want to talk about that.
Yeah.
And then you close the deal by saying, look, do you want to buy this with your money or my money? They're like, what do you mean your money? Well, we have financing available. It won't cost you anything today.
Yeah.
Then they're like, I'm in.
All of that is value. And that's how I feel is you're not serving a customer by just giving them the one thing. I mean, if my son takes his car to the shop for an oil change and he's got 4 bald tires,
if they don't recommend it,
it's your job to present. It's the customer's job to decide.
Absolutely.
And so a lot of times people look at bigger companies or companies that grow and say, well, they're just selling everything. No, we're not just selling people things. We're presenting. I mean, I'm not a plumber, but if I'm there to look at ductwork and I go in their house and there's water spraying, I'm going to tell them about
absolutely.
it. That's a service, right? You give people a menu at a restaurant. You don't want me to tell you what to order, right? You want to know, and then you decide. And all of that, I think you give the best service possible by saying, this is what we came here for. This is also what I noticed. This is also, they might buy all of them. They might buy none of them.
Right.
But if you don't present, you failed as the professional. And that's why you have a license.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The neat thing is too, people walking in, we have that broke mindset. Okay. A lot of tradespeople I'm not making $8 an hour, but when you're making $8 an hour, it's hard to tell somebody you need to spend 10 grand on this.
You're selling out of your own budget.
You bet. Yeah. You're looking at it from, I couldn't afford that.
Yeah.
And I remember I had a plumber call me one day and he was at a house. We had done a sewer water test. He isolates it. He's like, okay, they got problems. And sold them on a complete inspection because we have to isolate it. We have to do all the things that we do. And he calls me and, man, you can hear the tears in his voice. And he's like, Roger, this is bad. I said, okay. He said, these people can't afford this. I said, I understand. I said, but they need their plumbing working.
Yeah.
He said, yeah. I said, and he's like, I don't know what to do. I said, well, number one, Brian, did you cause that problem? He said, no. I said, you didn't stick anything down there and break it. He says, I can't do that. I said, I know.
Right.
But I need you to understand that.
Yeah.
So what do you do now? He says, I don't know what to do. I said, yeah, you do. You take care of them just like it was your mom.
Yeah.
And you're going to say, hey, look, here's the problems you got. And I hate to tell you this, but this ain't cheap.
Yeah.
And you get in and talk to them and offer financing, offer whatever you need.
Yeah.
We've got the tools to try to help them. But Brian, you got to understand, you didn't do this.
Right. And be a person.
You bet.
Right. You can empathize.
If you can't, you got a problem.
Right. Yeah. You
know,
I've had customers cry.
Oh, yeah. Oh, me too.
You go there and you say, you empathize, and because I'm a person, I'm not just an HVAC person. Because sometimes when people hire you, they hire the plumber, fear already starts. How much is it going to be?
Because they don't know when he comes out.
Right. So you come, they're hearing cha-ching, cha-ching, right? You're not a cha-ching. You're a person.
I'm a value. How can I add value? I'm not just going to fix this. Here's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. And if someone cries, I've sat in many houses. I was in the field for 15 years before I came out of the truck.
Oh, I've talked to customers and got teary-eyed myself. So I'm like, look, I get it. I get it.
And you sit and you can cry with them or watch them cry or whatever it is, and you empathize, but you still have to offer the solution. If you offer a solution that doesn't work, you're not helping them. And you don't want to sell out of your own budget. And this one thing I had to reframe, because I pull up to certain houses and you automatically, they can afford it. You pull up to this house, oh man, they're not. You don't know anything about them. It's the worst thing you can do. I went in a car dealership. This was 5 years ago. And my wife said, I really like this car, blah, blah, blah. Because we both grew up poor. And sometimes you feel like, I shouldn't buy that. I said, babe, let's go buy it. Right. We're going to buy it. So we pull up on the car dealership. We tell the salesman, hey, we're looking for this kind of car, this. And he said, oh, you don't want that. It's $52,000. You want this. I left. You don't decide for me. You just present it.
Absolutely.
Right. So, yeah.
No, I love that. So my ex-wife drives a Lexus, 450, nice. And it was time for her to get a car. I already had a truck. Look, it's your turn. And she says, I want you to go with me. I said, no, you don't. I said, if it's not this brand, this brand, this brand, don't come home. Yeah. And she's like, but we can't afford it. I said, yes, we can. And you deserve it.
You deserve it.
And she's like, I don't know. So she gets over and she looks and she calls me and she says, look, I found one. And she says, I'm talking to him. She says, look, this really does seem like a good deal. Yeah. I said, okay. She said, you want to come see it? I said, nope. Yeah. She said, why? I said, I don't want you to put my opinion in this. Yeah. I want you to get what you want. Yeah. And she says, well, this is the nicest one of these they have on the lot. Yeah. I said, okay, then get it. Talk about a mental mindset change. Her complete to this day. I'm like, hey, how's your car doing? She's like, oh my God. She says, that's my palace. Yeah. I love it.
You have to, and that's one thing for some of the smaller tradesmen or people who are staying. One of the mental mind shifts is to realize you deserve it.
You bet.
This jacket here, I bought this jacket. This jacket cost me a lot of money, right? I had the same exact version of this. It was $25 on Amazon. And it ripped, and I bought another one, and it ripped. And then I realized one day.
Man, if I buy a right one, I'd say $25.
But then I realized, wait, why? I'm beyond that. If I want this jacket, I deserve it. I could afford it at the time. But a lot of times, and I see this a lot with tradespeople. I have conversations with, it's my community. And they'll say, well, because you have the doctor lawyer thing. And, well, tradespeople, we can't take a vacation. And why not? Yeah. You have more training than some doctors. You
got more training than all of them, to be honest.
If you really look at it.
Yeah, you look at the hours they put. I've talked to doctors. I've talked to attorneys. Yeah. I'm like, we got way more training than you, which I think the training hours need to come down. Yeah. Kids have access to, here in Texas, to get a plumbing license, to get a journeyman license, it's 8,000 hours. Okay.
Wow.
4 years to get your journeyman. If you're not in a DOL training program, it's another 4 years to get your master's. Okay. That's 8 years to put in to get your master license. Yeah. You can become a doctor or a lawyer in 8 years.
And you're dealing with life and limb safety things just like them.
But doctors don't want to admit that. They know it.
Right.
Attorneys won't admit it at all.
So you deserve to have a lifestyle that you've earned. My dad kept a hospital running. How many lives is that?
You bet.
Does he deserve a vacation? Does he deserve to be able to put all his kids through college? Yes.
And that's one thing too, that plumbing company owners need to train their people in. You know, when you raise your prices, or when you get up to that level, look, we're gonna get insurance, but we got to raise our prices to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Raise your prices.
Yeah.
Your people deserve insurance. And when you look at it from a plumbing company owner point of view, because plumbing company owners are like, I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can. And then when you go in and people say, man, you're not cheap. Well, no. Do you get vacation at work? You said you took a vacation day today, right? Yeah. Well, my guys have vacation too.
Yeah.
Do you have insurance? My guys have insurance. Do you get paid for holidays? My guys do too.
Yeah.
That's not free.
Right.
Who do you work for? Do you know how much money they charge to pay your salary? We have to charge this to pay their salary.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, there's so many different ways to present it, to talk about it, and do things like that, it makes all the difference.
Because you say, and I've told customers before when I get in that conversation is, okay, you want me to send a technician that has a clean background. You want
drug tested background check.
You don't want just some random.
Absolutely.
You want a good person, someone that's going in your kid's room and checking the vent. And those people come and you got that person they have options. They can work anywhere, and to work here.
And number one, your company is an option.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So you want the top quality person. I have the top quality people, and I have to pay those people well. So if you want the top quality people, this is how much it costs. Or you said it was cheaper at that other company. I don't know by the way, they don't do background checks. Then it reframes.
Oh yeah.
That, okay, well, I'll pay the $500 as opposed to the $150.
I had a student of mine. He made a post on Facebook and I saw it, and he had a very nice estimate. Computer generated software program. It's all right. It's all spelled out, options. I mean, everything. And he posted the picture next to it. Basically it was written on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. It could have been a paper towel, to be honest. And it looked like it was drawn with a big black crayon or something. And you look at it and it's like, well, number one, yours is legal. Theirs isn't. There's no license number on it. There's no contact the state board if there's a problem, anything like that. But the one on the piece of paper was about $100 cheaper. And the customer called and says, hey, look, I really want to work with you. But this other I found somebody that can do it for a better price. And he says, okay, send me the estimate. I'd like to look at it and see what all they included or didn't include. And then he posts the pictures side by side. He said, look, this is comparing apples to oranges. We're not doing the same kind of business. Yeah. If this is what their estimate looks like, what do you think their work's going to look like?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Cause that's what he's showing you, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. He's showing you right up front. Hey, here's the way we work.
Right.
And it's like, man, that's a tough way to do it. Yeah. How do you grow your business now? What do you do to make your phone ring, to bring new customers in? How are you growing your business?
So the community presence, the business having a community presence is very important. And that's even when it comes to hiring, right? It's outside of the box. You want to hire top talent. Oh, you put a job ad on Indeed. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to actually give back to the community. So one thing that we do is we partner with organizations that we believe in. I partner with a wonderful one in Fayetteville, teaches young men trades, teaches young men's life skills. You go into the community and you show up as a business. Right. So I would come with my logo with one of the trucks, and you give and you support and you teach and you do all that. And the community begins to know the business as a member of the community. You bet. Not just as an HVAC company.
You're not just a company showing up, you're part of the community.
Yes.
Oh yeah, he's here all the time.
Yes. Because a company without a story is a commodity. It's a price, right? But when I'm in the community giving, and you actually have to give, it's not fake, you're actually here giving back.
You really got to like people and do stuff.
You're giving money, you're teaching, you're doing that. People are starting to see you as one of us, because a lot of the companies, you are one of them, but you don't show up. They don't know you until you pull up to the house. So what we do is we do a lot of work in the community, and we give back as much as we possibly can. And when we give back with the brand there. A lot of people are scared to do that because they say, well, I don't want to show off. It's not about showing off.
Oh, I'm branded everywhere I go.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
I mean, the bigger you get and the better your company is, the more I can give back to other people. It's weird how that works. So you're sharing it so that you can grow, so you can reach your goals, and also so that you can give back more.
I love it. And like I said, I'm branded everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I'm walking through Caesar's Palace this last week, 3 days ago. And literally it's like, Roger Wakefield.
Mm-hmm.
And people come out like, dude, I watch you.
Yeah.
Now, mine's national. It's global. It's a little bit different. But one of my coaches told me a long time ago, look, if you don't love your brand so much that you're willing to wear it anywhere and everywhere, every day, why not?
Yeah.
Because if you don't love your brand more than anything else, why should other people?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow.
And you have to show up, and you have to show up how you want to be perceived.
Mm-hmm.
That's my number one. Number two, you have to check up on your customers, right? So you have customers, you do a plumbing job and you leave, they never hear from you again until their plumbing breaks again. That's a mistake.
And they normally don't hear from you then because they don't remember you. Because you didn't follow up.
You don't remember what you ate for breakfast,
Uh-huh.
let alone the plumber that came 6 months ago,
Yep.
right? It's so if you check up with your customer, I'll tell you something interesting. 3 months ago, we did a change out for a lady. We changed her whole system, several $1,000s. And this woman said to me, I pulled up on the job. I like to show up, right? Because I miss meeting people. I work from the office now. And she said, hey, Michael, thanks for checking up on me over the years. And I didn't really know what she was saying. We send a monthly email newsletter. She sees it as checking up on her.
Absolutely.
Right? So the monthly emails, the text message reminder, all of that is making sure people don't forget who you are, right? Because a year later, I mean, when I tell my wife, hey, can you get the carpets cleaned? She just finds some random person.
No, I need new tires on my truck, and I'm trying to think, okay, where did I buy them?
Yes. And that's the worst. As a business owner, that's the scariest thing to me is to hear those conversations.
Absolutely.
People say, oh, where was that guy? He was amazing. He came. I don't want that. I want them to say.
No, I love it. Now, do you have all that automated?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Hold on. I don't want it to. Not automation running.
Oh,
that's what that screen put. And that's not why I did it, but if I don't shut this down, this will go away.
okay.
Yeah. Got my genius birthday post, so it scours my Facebook.
Okay.
If it's somebody's birthday, it sends them a message from me.
Wow.
2 days before and 2 days after.
Wow.
That way it's not right in the middle of all the birthday messages.
That's amazing.
It works pretty good.
Yeah.
So automation is big.
Mm-hmm.
CRM, customer relationship management.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of plumbers don't even know it's out there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of HVAC techs, a lot of electricians, it's like,
Right.
yeah, we've got our customers that they love us.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, I bet if I called them right now and said, hey, who's your electrician?
Mm-hmm.
They'd be like, I don't know why.
Right. That's such a scary conversation.
It is.
Yeah.
But a lot of business owners don't understand that.
Right.
And that's why I got into a million different things to learn how to grow businesses,
Right.
how to help businesses. But marketing is big.
Mm-hmm.
I love your idea of getting out in front of the community. Tommy Mello, Tersh Blissett, people like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like doing things that are just above and beyond. It's like, oh my God, I love that.
Yeah.
And that makes it really, really, really neat. We're almost there. So number one, this has been great. Tell everybody again who you are and what you do and how they can find you.
So my name is Michael James Johnson, and I own an HVAC company. I do business coaching. And I always tell people to find me, go to YouTube and type Michael James Johnson. It's the easiest way to find me.
See, I tell people go to YouTube and just search plumbing.
That's incredible. You know how amazing that is?
That's pretty good. I teach people how to do that with HVAC.
That's amazing. And I tell people, put the James because there's a very famous athlete named Michael Johnson.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, sprinter, world record holder.
No, I know him.
Yeah,
He's from
you do know?
Dallas.
He is.
Yeah.
He was in Waco. He went to Waco.
No, I know Michael.
Yeah. So if you don't type Michael James Johnson, you're going to get him. So I tell them, go to YouTube, Michael James.
At one point, he's the fastest man in the world. So
yeah,
not a bad deal.
Yeah, I mean, I idolized him.
No, me too.
Yeah.
And I tell you this, one of the most amazing people.
Wow.
That's what's neat. That's why you remember him.
He wrote a book called Slaying the Dragon. I read it as a teenager.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Well, he's done it.
He's done it.
I remember I was doing a bathroom remodel at the Cotton Bowl one time.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden this nice car comes pulling in, and I would walk outside because we had our trucks parked right outside the main ramp, and he kind of pulls in, just parks right there on the ramp. And I walk up to him, dude, you may not want to park there. They're going to tow your car. And he rolls down the window. And I'm like, what are you doing here? He says, what are you doing here? Because I used to do security for the Mavericks.
Wow.
And he's like, what are you doing here? I said, well, I'm a plumber during the day. He said, no way. I said, what are you doing here? He says, I'm here to work out. I said, you're working out of the Cotton Bowl?
Wow.
He said, yeah. He says, I come here sometimes and run. It's a different surface. And my coaches meet me down here.
You met the Michael Johnson.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I used to do security for the Dallas Mavericks. So he'd come in the back tunnels because he knew people.
Yeah.
And it'd be like, I'd be the one to escort him out or something like that. But yeah, he's an amazing person.
Wow.
Biggest heart in the world. Nicest guy.
Wow.
But I mean, I've met Dennis Rodman and Shaq and everybody else, but I've met you before you were you. See?
Nah, I met you. It's interesting when you see someone online so many times and you meet them, you don't really know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been amazing.
Pretty cool. So 3 different questions. Number 1, tell me about the best day you've ever had at work.
The best day that I've ever had at work was there was a little old lady, and I did a service call. This was way back, and she had a drain issue. And I cleaned the drain. It was just a minor repair. And she cried at the table. And I sat with her, and I just kind of held her hand.
Yep.
And I said, are you okay? She said, no, I'm okay. I'm crying happy tears because I was so scared at what would happen. And you just came and cleaned the drain. And I will never forget that because it shows how much you actually serve people. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. I love it. People look at me all the time like you're this big burly guy, big thick mustache. Used to do security and bodyguard work and all that. And I've had customers' house that you're in there, you take care of them, you walk out, you climb in the van, and then the tears come. It's like, damn.
Yeah.
Tell me about the worst day you ever had at work.
The worst day that I ever had at work this was actually when I was working for a company. This was the day that I left to start my own company. I was working on a heat exchanger with my boss, and my wife called me, and I get teary. To get me talking about my wife and my kids, it's the tears.
No, I get it.
My wife called me. She was crying. She just had a miscarriage. She went to the restroom, had a miscarriage. She called me. She said, I need you to come home. I told my boss, I said, my wife just had a miscarriage. I need to go home. You know what he said? He said, you can go home when that heat exchanger's done. It was the worst day I had. And it was the last day I ever worked for a company. And that's what we talked about leadership.
Did you stay and finish it?
No. But no.
I was going to say, I wouldn't have.
I didn't leave.
I'd have been like.
Yeah, because
I'd have left. I'd have been like,
He didn't need me to finish. And that's the worst part about it. And I left and I never went back.
Yeah.
And I hugged my wife and she cried and I cried. And, this was before I had any kids. We had 3 miscarriages before.
Look, I've been a plumbing company owner. I've been a plumber. I've been everything. Every plumber, electrician, HVAC tech out there needs to know their family is more important than any company they work for.
Yeah.
Any. I understand we got to take care of those companies because that's what feeds our family.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day,
when
it's, do you choose your wife? Do you choose this company? Do you choose your children? Do you choose this company? What do you choose? Always bet on your family.
Because it's a big deal. You will cheat something. Everybody cheats something.
You bet.
If you cheat work, you're cheating your family.
Right.
If you choose your family, you're cheating work.
Yeah.
So which one are you going to choose to cheat?
Right.
And I'm going to choose to cheat the job in those instances.
No. Yeah. And I don't look at it as cheating. It's like, boss, look, I got something got to be. The customer's still going to be taken care of.
Yeah. See ya.
Company's still going to be fine.
Yeah.
Y'all got this. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last question. So the day after you graduated, the next Monday you get up, you're either headed out to the military, headed out to get a job, headed out. So right after you graduate high school, you go back and you're right there on that front porch when little MJ steps out the door. What advice do you give him based on everything you know right now?
It's a heavy question. If I see little MJ, I would say, make the investment that old MJ will thank you for, right? I would tell little MJ, invest in yourself, invest in your family, invest in your education, trust God always, no matter what happens. Because if you do that, everything else will align together.
I like that. Very good.
Thank you.
Michael, this has been wonderful. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.